Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Russian with Misha. Today, we are obviously going to do the second part of this series. We will be going over the accusative, genitive, and prepositional cases. And then the second part of the lesson will focus on using these cases in different situations. So, for example, applicable there, but for numbers, genitive comes in, it's most essential. And then for Q&A, these will answer a few different prepositional questions or also having to do with movement. So there will be some accusative in there as well. Antonyms, so these are just adjectives which we will be putting in these different cases to do a little practice there. And then also this will help with prepositional because we will say, okay, in this place, how would you say that in Russian? So having things is pretty much all having to do with genitive because the most common way is the first way, but then there's also accusative with that, and then instrumental with obladat, but I mean, it's rarely used, if at all. I mean, very, very sometimes. They all have different kind of attributes to them, but I would say obladat is the least used out of all of them. But we'll go over instrumental case at a later lesson. And then here are some questions and, some practice sentences to get the brain juices flowing, right? And the last one here, keep this in mind because I will ask you again at the end to leave a comment to describe your friend. So, and you will learn so many different adjectives here, which you will be able to use. And also, you could say "u moего друга." So you'll have the whole package to start making these kind of possessive sentences, and also using prepositions in context. Although that being said, like I said before, there are a lot of prepositions that do not use prepositional case or would fall under the accusative either. So, like, there's genitive, which I guess you will learn now, and then also instrumental and dative, really the whole gambit. So, the word preposition is so broad in Russian that when you say, oh, it's a preposition, like, yes, it is, but that doesn't mean that it'll trigger the prepositional case because there are so many other factors that would go into it. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the accusative. So it answers the question, kого, что. Now, why isn't it кто, что? Well, because кто is declined like masculine. So кто is obviously animate, right? Which is this is the only case that differentiates between inanimate and animate. Yeah, so in any other case, it doesn't really matter if the noun is animate or inanimate. They just follow the rules pertaining to that grammatical gender and number. But here, since кто is declined like masculine, and who is obviously something animate, that changes it to kого. So if it is animate and masculine or plural, but кто is not plural, you decline it as the genitive. So, like I said, this would be genitive singular as the adjective form because that's just how you decline them. They're interrogatives, but declined like adjectives. And yeah, so this is masculine singular, but then if you had a masculine plural, then you would, or not even masculine, if you just had a plural animate object, so a live object, or not even object, but person or animal, then you would decline it as the genitive plural. So that's what this means here. Now, what is accusative? Great question. It is the direct object. Now, what does that mean? So in English, we have, let me just check if it's really, yes. Okay, so if it's in English, it's like I threw the ball to him. The ball in this sentence would be the direct object. So я бросил мяч ему. So I threw the ball to him. So мяч here is the direct object. Now notice that, so мяч is match in nominative case. Nothing changes because it is inanimate. But if you're going to say, I threw the spider, pauka ему, so pauk is spider in the nominative, but then it goes to pauka because of its anonymity. Is that of its aliveness and anonymity? Well, I guess anonymity. No, not like anonymous, but anyway, you know what I mean. Okay, so that is for masculine animate, and then this right here again, like I said, it's the genitive singular. So we'll see that again in a minute. But so for this, so let's say I threw the spiders at him. So я бросил пауков ему. So again, we will look at this later in genitive, but you put that ending on there since again it's alive. But if there's movement, so this technically, yes, you can say that's movement. However, it's not I guess you're not moving it's not going to a different place, right? So you would say я иду, so I'm going to the store, right? So magazine. Oh, yeah, so I'm going to the store. And we will talk about verbs of motion later, but this is going one direction on foot. So I'm going to the store. Now, v here, you would be like, well, maybe after the prepositional slide, you'd be like, okay, if it's v, then this triggers the prepositional case. So wouldn't it be magazinie? No, because there is movement here. So you're changing location. Whereas brosить, yes, it is movement. You're throwing something, but it's not directionally changing. The subject isn't changing place, just the arm, right? But anyway, so now let's get into some adjectives with it. So before that, let's do some feminine. So я люблю девушку. So I love the girl. Девушка is nominative for girl. And then you remove the a, add u. Simple, right? Now, if it was I love the girls, then it would be я люблю девушек. And again, this will become clearer once we talk about genitive. But it's good to have these like preliminary notes here. Okay, so девушек. Now notice, this is feminine, but you still decline it like genitive plural because it's animate. Now, if this was я люблю what? Я люблю шапки. I love hats. This is just шапки because it's not alive. So just because it's plural doesn't mean it will look like genitive. Okay, now we could start with some pronouns. And then we'll move into adjectives. Okay, so Ty lubisz mnie? So, do you love me? Now this, so ja, we see here, goes to mnie. Now we also see mnie, so mnie zawód, right? Mnie zawód blank. So insert name here. Now it's literally saying they call me because I am in the direct object here. Now you see this in English. So you love me. So it's not you love I. So I changes to me. So if this is a completely alien concept to you, then just think of it like that. Whereas, each part of speech has its own place in the sentence. And depending on the usage and place in the sentence, the ending will change to reflect that usage. Yeah. So hopefully that kind of helps if you're struggling with grasping the entire concept of cases in general. Okay, so let's get in. Yeah, so you can see, you can fill in the blanks here with your own example sentences, but let's move on for the sake of time. So now let's put in an adjective. So ja lubię krasiwuję dziewuszkę. So uju. So if it's aya, okay, we didn't do. So it would be krasiwaya in nominative, right? But in accusative, the aya goes to uyu. So a good rule of thumb is when you see a, change it to u, and if you see ya, change it to you. Now, in some instances, like domashnyaya means homemade or home as an adjective. So this goes to domashnyuyu. So again, if you see ya, go to you. But this is pretty rare and kind of an archaic form of the adjectival endings, only present in like a few. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. But anyway, so usually it would just be uyu or oyu, right? If it was aya, like mayu. So mayu devushko. So my girlfriend. So my girl, my girlfriend. There's no like girlfriend, unless you mean like platonic friend, right? Which actually, I didn't realize this, but platonic comes from Plato. Maybe that's just me being dumb, but that blew my mind when I figured that out. Anyway, well, I shouldn't say I figured it out. I heard that in a podcast, and it blew my mind. Anyway, so mayu devushku. So yeah, to you. Perfect. Now, let's go. It doesn't really matter if we go through nominative, right? Because they just look the same. Like, ya lublu for the sake of ease. Lublu. Or no, let's do ya piu chorny chai. So, I'm drinking black tea. Now, nothing changes if it were to be. Nothing changes from nominative to accusative because it's not alive, right? So I'm drinking, я пью, чёрный. So it's just, this is the nominative adjectival ending as well. And then chai, masculine, again, doesn't change because it's unalive masculine, okay? Now, if it were, I don't know, let's do something else. Ya ubil. No, that's I don't like that. I don't want to promote negativity on here. Come on. Or no. Anna rodila ребенка. That's a great example. Okay, so ребенок is the nominative. Now ребенок goes to ребенка in the accusative and genitive. Now, This is a fleeting vowel. We call that because. So let's just for Robionok. So Robionok is the nominative here, going to Robionka. But then it has an irregular plural, so Robionok goes to dzieci, also in nominative. Now, if you want to decline dzieci in the accusative or genitive, it goes to dziecię. Same thing with человек, goes to ludzi as just an irregular plural, but then ludzi goes to ludzie in these cases. And that's just because that they're alive, obviously. So you take out the O just because of it sounding better. That's the rule. If there's like a too much consonant cluster, you have to, the rule is I don't know about artificial. It feels artificial instead of just powering through a consonant cluster. But I guess it just evolved because people would just put that in anyway, just to, not make it sound like there's sand in your mouth, right? So this works not just Robionok, but pisok. So mnogo piska, right? So, but we'll talk about that with the genitive case. But just know that this is not the only babushka goes to. So babushka, genitive, singular, babushki, we'll talk about genitive, but then let's say babushku in the singular feminine, but then that goes to babushek because it's, you decline it like genitive, plural, because it's plural, but also animate. Same thing with koshek. Koshka goes to koshek. But it's important to know, like kusochek, Now, kusochek is nominative, but if you do genitive, it becomes kusochka. So genitive singular declines it as kusochka, and then kusochkov in the plural. But anyway, we're losing track here. Right, so that's kind of it. So, but then if you want to be like, я вижу, let's say, вижу большое окно. Right, so окно, neuter. You see because of the O here. So большое окно. Now nothing changes because it's like masculine and animate. Okay, now let's move on to genitive. So this answers the question kovo чего. Now this doesn't matter about anonymity. I'm just going to go with anonymity because I like how it sounds. Anonymity. Okay, so kovo, who, right, from kto, and then чего from что. By the way, что means what, or it can mean that. So I don't know, я не знаю, что она не любит. Horrible sentence. Okay, so что in this instance is just that. So it separates I know from она не любит. Yeah, same in English. And then тебя, right, obviously is the direct object, meaning it is the accusative. So ты goes to тебя. Okay, so, and then она is nominative, which would be ее in accusative. And this also should be неё. Okay, so this answers the question kovo чего. Now, kovo, like I said, is exactly the same here because of, well, in the accusative, matters about anonymity, but here it's just the default rule, no matter if it's alive or not. So if it's, good. So magazine didn't change, right? Or let's do мяч because there's no preposition there to confuse. So мяч. So what will be a good of the ball? Trying to think. I guess игра мяча. Okay, so the game of the ball could be any game, really. Besides like wrestling, I don't know. So now we have at the end. So that's the rule for masculine here. So add and now let's tack on something a bit fancy. We have the soft sign, which I kind of always forget to talk about in these lessons, but it is important. So let's say, I guess now we can do let's do koja. So the skin of the bear. Okay. Medved. Yeah. So medved is nominative, but then the rule goes you remove that, add that. So this is the skin of the bear, and you can think of it as like of something in English, right? So, which is kind of the simplest, most straightforward rule for this case. But then also, as you can see, it talks about possession, counting, and negation. So let's say, we'll talk about having things in a bit, but let's do, this is kind of possession. So that takes care of that. And then we'll talk about numbers here, but I want to do vnutri. So vnutri is inside. Now vnutri, you add genitive to this. So vnutri koropke. So inside the box. But if you're like, no, I want to think outside the box, then you do vnia. Now vnia and another variation is snaruje. To be honest, I don't really know the difference between these, but I think snaruje is more descriptive of that it is a container of something. So I would say, if you're talking about a metaphorical box, I would say vinya. But if you're saying, they're outside the room, then I would do snaruje. So snaruje komnaty. And I also don't know if they have I don't know if they have the saying thinking outside the box in Russian, which also is a good segue into talking about phrases or words in general. So when you're talking about things like rabota or vada, or I don't know, let's just go with this actually for now. And then another category would be like klukva, so berries, and klukva is cranberry. So klukva, but then yagadi. So yagadi is always plural, but that'll be too confusing, I think, for purposes of this. Klukva, vinograd is grapes. So a lot of these, I think pretty much all berries and nuts. Actually, I don't know. Like if it was something, I don't want to make a hard and fast rule that it's all of them, because I don't know if it's a hard and fast rule, but for most of them, let's say, these are singular and plural. So what that means is that when you are declining them and you want to talk about many of them, you just look at what they are in nominative, and then you say, okay, if it's klukva, then it should go to klukvi, right? Never klukv, just because it's, even if you want to specify that it's, a set countable number of them, like it doesn't matter. Like even if it's 4, and we'll cover numbers later, but if it's like 4 cranberries, or even if it's 5, so those normally would be different. Well, they are different numbers, but they're different. We'll talk about this later, but 2 to 4 is genitive singular, and then 5 through 20 for the first few digits is genitive plural. So these here would all be genitive singular, no matter if you want to specify, if there's 5 more, it's still klukvi. And then here, if it's vinograd, vinograda, and then just vinograda. And then if you want to say, oh well, I don't have any. So this is where. But before we talk about that, let's cover this. So for things that are unquantifiable, uncountable, so you can't have many works. You can have many professions, but you can't have many works, right? Well, I guess if you're an artist, but for work is it's like an entity. You can't have a lot of waters, right? You can have many bottles of water, but you can't specifically count, the individual. How much waters is this? It's a substance. It's not something to be. It's not. You can't count it, right? So that's kind of the idea here. So if you want to say много работы, then this is the way you say a lot of work. Yes, it's genitive singular. Now you can't say много работ. It's incorrect because you're implying that there's two different, at least two different works here being performed. Well, if you're saying много, that is. So, but then if you're like, okay, много воды, right? So много воды. So вода goes to воды in genitive singular. Now, again, you can't count how much water there is. It's just it's a substance, right? Yes, you can technically measure, but it's still just you can't say, oh, there's 3 water here. It's right. Yeah. I think you guys you kind of understand where I'm coming from here. Okay, and then we're going to talk about negation. So negation could either be нет. A lot of people say нету, but this is improper. So properly is just нет. If you say нету, okay, a lot of people say that, right? Fine. But it's just not correct. Okay, so let's say, or нет, let's just go through some negation words. So без is another one. Без, it means without. And then if you want to be a little fancy, you could say некоторых, which is has a genitive ending here. So it's describing the whatever it is you're trying to say. So некоторые детей. So this would be a few children. But then if you want to say несколько месяцев, so this is a few months. Now, forgetting, this is a bit confusing. So if we'll do сколько, plain, let's get rid of this too. That's a bit too advanced for where we are now. So сколько is how many or how much. So сколько стоит, сколько людей. So стоит is a verb, so it's not applicable to cases, obviously, right? Because cases are inherently dealing with nouns. Сколько людей, сколько. But again, it doesn't have to be animate because it's genitive, right? So сколько столов, сколько, I don't know, whatever. Now let's do some adjectives. So let's do. I don't want to do sentences just yet because then we'll do that at the end with the numbers and all that stuff. So let's do много, or even another. I just thought of this. So another quantifiable word would be para. Now you're probably like, wait a minute. This just means a pair. Wouldn't that mean that it's just 2 of something? No. So this also triggers genitive plural, like para slov, a few words, because it's not para. I think would more be like a few than actually 2. So I guess that makes more sense. So all these vague words here, like how many, or well, без is kind of, it depends, because you could do без and нет kind of depend, because you could do, I'm thinking now, you could do singular things with that. So like без, like dom simi. Okay, so home without a family. So that's, singular. Or like нет. Well, I think net's a bit different. I think what I'm thinking is when we talk about having things, like you can do it there. But if it's just net by itself, like нет проблем, even if it's one problem, so problema, right? A lot of people get this confused. So it's for obvious reasons. So it's problema in nominative. But if you decline it to genitive, it's always inherent that it's more than one problem you have. So instead of specifying, it's just нет problem. Or like Gaza is another one of these words. Like instead of feminine, like gaz, unquantifiable, goes to Gaza, right? So много газа, много кислорода, много водорода. If you want to go with chemical knowledge there. So kislorod, oxygen, and then vodorod is hydrogen, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember. But vodorod is hydrogen, I think. Kislorod, oxygen. Wait, what did I say? Hold on. Wait. Vodorod, kislorod, and there's... I'm trying to think of carbon. It's not ugle. No, that's coal. Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm forgetting my science terms. But that also works. So if it's nauk, right? So if it's nauk, a lot of science would be nauka, right? Okay. And then we're gonna go with prepositional case. Well, actually, we need to do adjectives first. Calm down. Okay. Now let's do без пресной воды. So, пресная вода is fresh water. So, the aya goes to oi, and then it will go to ye depending on the spelling rule. To be honest, I don't really know the specific spelling rules. You kind of just have to see what looks right. Like I could be like, if it follows, wait, no, that was dumb. If it follows, whatever letter, but I really don't know. Like, unless I see it, I'm like, I don't. It'll just be like, I'll just see that it's oi or yay and be like, oh, okay, it's, it'll be genitive. But honestly, like if you see these, you have a pretty good. It could be any. Well, within reason. It could be most cases besides nominative, accusative. Actually, that's it. So in every other case, I'm trying to think. Yeah. In any other case, it's like this. So feminine is that, which is really nice. So you only really have to worry about masculine. Neuter just pretty much always follows the pattern of whatever masculine's doing, and then plural is a bit tricky. Yeah. But I mean, masculine, right? So really, you have to mainly worry about the masculine and plural endings, because feminine, boom, it's not horrible. And neuter, again, just copies masculine for the most part, unless it's like, you have to worry about it being animate. Okay, so, but moving on. So again, this is singular here, fresh water, because again, unquantifiable. And then if you want to say something plural, let's do I don't want to do некоторые. Без, or no, let's do. I want to сколько. Yeah, let's do сколько. Сколько широких окон. So how many? And we'll talk about this here when we get to prepositional next. So let's just remove that. Okay, so how many wide windows? So we see here, you can see the rule, plural, ich, And then oken, so we have another fleeting vowel here. So okno is window in the nominative, which goes to okon in the genitive plural. Okna if it were singular. But skolka, again, is how many, implying that there's plural. Let's do a fancy one. So let's do Noga zadani. Okay, Noga zadani. So this is many tasks. Now so zadania. So this can be a bit tricky. So zadania, nominative for task. Now this, and there are so many words like this derived from verbs, like ispalzavania, sabirania, and so many. Like you can pretty much turn any verb into this type of noun. And there was so if this is, there was a huge, not huge, but there was an argument I had with my friend about this. And he was like, does that mean these are gerunds? And I said no, because I was told that Russian doesn't have any gerund equivalent. Like the closest is deprичастие, which I don't really want to get into right now, but they function in a similar way. But these come from verbs, right? But I guess they're like, and I said that they're more similar to the shun family, right? So motion, collection, and et cetera, et cetera. Whereas gerunds are more like ing. They're more active, right? So that's what these are, more like the shun kind of. But then not really, because you have words like organizacja, right? Organization, which is a direct translation. So I don't really know how to feel about what these, the equivalent of these would be. Maybe it could be gerunds, but they're nouns that come from verbs. Whereas which is kind of what gerunds are in English, but then you have the deprичастие, which are their actions more so than this. Okay, but anyway, we're getting into the weeds. But I did say in the last lesson, and I'm kind of retracting that aspect. Okay, now, so zadania. Okay, so if you say singular here, so you see, did I add this? I can't tell. But if there is if it's singular, I didn't add it. So if it's singular, zadania, and it's not mnoga, so let's say, okay, we're getting into having things here, but u меня нет заданий, it would be zadania, okay? And this would be singular, but that's, again, we're getting into that. I don't really want to yet. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of the basics for this here. And then, you can refer to these slides to get a sense of the pronouns and the demonstratives and all that stuff. But I kind of don't want to be here all day. So prepositional case, right, is answering the question kom, chum. So that could be about, where, if there's no movement, or in or on, again, if there's no movement. Now, this is widely regarded as the easiest case to wrap your head around, just because there's the least amount of rules associated. So really, all you have to know is add yeah. So add yeah, or if it's plural, it's like this. So kind of, not really, but you see the ends here. This will trip a lot of people up, myself included, a lot of the times when I'm just not thinking about my words too hard. I'll be like, oh, I'll think, oh, where was I? well, no. I would be like, not so much now, but I would be like na stollich, right? Sometimes, which is this. But here they overlap. But it's just about differentiating between that ja to the adjective ich, which trips a lot of people up. But it's less to memorize. Like if there's here, and then also in these adjectives for prepositional, it's also ich. Now here, and again, like I said, oi, yay overlap. But here for adjectives, this looks a lot like instrumental, which we will get into. So, and I think I said this in the last video, but basically there's a lot of borrowing and overlap from different aspects of each case. So you're seeing it now. Okay, and then here is a bit tricky. Now, when you're talking about something that happens in a specific place, you use this locative case. So a long time ago, there were more cases in Russian than the 6 we're going to be going over. The 6 official cases that are established today. So they were just enveloped into different ones. So like you have here the locative, but then there's also like the vocative, which is when you say like, oh bože, right? So it's like, oh God, right? Or господи. You'll hear people, господи. Okay, I guess it's saying it's wrong. But you'll hear people say this type of stuff. Now, this is also, it also follows this same kind of, I remove this, add yeah, right, to the prepositional. Bog, boga. So bog, well, not really in this case, but bog goes to boja. And that's also interesting to note because g goes to je when it's softened by the letter after it. So like not just in this, but this appears in different instances as well, like in Daragoy to Daroja and yada yada yada. But anyway, so here when you're saying, oh, I was born in Я родился, and we'll get to numbers here in a second. Я родился в 2002 году. So I was born in the 2002nd year, or 2002. But this is literally saying 2002nd because this is втором here, which is, and again, we'll get to numbers, but this is saying, so второй is second, and then declined with an adjective. You see here, втором, and then году. So usually these, like I said, these are for one syllable. So god fits into this category, as well as the other ones present. But if you want to say like vortu in someone's mouth, in the mouth, in vortu есть зубы, let's say. In the mouth there are teeth. Or в лесу есть, or живут. Why not spice it up? Животные. This actually appears like an adjective. Now, I don't know what this is describing, but it might be, I actually really don't know. Maybe it's describing mammal? No. Noun? No, because noun, I've never actually known what this actually is describing, but it is an adjectival form. So this follows the same rules, like животные, люди, so it would be люди любит животных, right? Again, they're alive. So you need to decline it as such in the accusative. Okay. Same thing with налду. Налду они потеряли коньки. So on the ice, they lost the skates. Let's do, again, ich never changes. So they lost their skates. Or you could say свои. Now this Because you know that it's ani and you want to say one's own skates, then you use svai. But if it was naldu, ana, patriala, again, if you want to say her own skates, it's svai konki. But if you want to say their skates, it would be, okay? Now, again, actually, should go, well, we'll talk about that later. Yeah, okay. And then remember that these aren't just about living things. So if you want to say, I know about it, you say, ya znаю o нем, right? Well, theoretically, by default, you use masculine for this because it could also be neuter, which might be the reason, or they just default to masculine. But it will look like this, no matter what the actual reason is. But if they specify, like, я изучаю politologию, so ya to you, remember. So I know about ней. So I know about it. Okay? I learn politics. And then you're saying, I know about it. Great. Or you could say, об этой. So about this. So again, this is describing politologia. When we get into который, this will kind of bridge these two gaps. And also, when we talk about participles, again, this will also bridge these two gaps. Because you'll have to know, like, oh, this is feminine, so then, like, so if you just example, because little taste, которая. So I study politics, which, well, it depends. So you reconvert it back to the aya, which is in the nominative, and then you apply whatever grammar you want to say in the second clause. So I study politics, which he loves. So you would say которую он любит, right? So this is describing, this becomes the direct object now. But it's not, that's actually a bad example because this could get confusing. So let's say if it was not politologia, but I study, actually, yeah. So because it would be good to have a different one. So I love, я люблю моего брата. Okay. Now, I love my brother who, okay, so который, so brata goes to brat, right? And then you have to redecline it back to nominative. So который зарабатывает много денег. Okay? This is actually another good example of genitive. So деньги is money. So деньги, like люди, goes to людей. Again, really, it's like a substance, not really, you can count it, but if you're just saying a lot of something, you don't know specifically how much, or if you're asking how much, like сколько денег, then it's still like a substance. But if you want to say how many dollars, like сколько долларов, then it becomes a genitive plural. Okay. Well, actually, no. I take that back because this is just always plural. So it's like the Now that I realize it, it's not anything. Yeah, it's just always plural. Like I'm thinking of different cases, and this is just always. I meant to say that this is just always plural. Yeah. So remove when I was talking about how this is different, because I should have just said that it's always plural. Anyway, moving on now. Okay. Прошедшее, настоящее, будущее время. Past, present, future tense. Now, we already went over the present tense, but not the conjugations. So kind of went over it. Like I went over the buit thing, how you conjugate buit and then put the imperfective, infinitive. But if it's perfective, you just conjugate it like you would in present tense, which means it's the future. And then we established aspect as imperfective being ongoing and perfective being one time. Now, aspect, I will note that aspect, when it comes to verbs of motion, is horrendous. Okay, so if it's a movement verb like go, run, swim, fly, a lot of them, they have 3 pairs. So there's unidirectional, multidirectional, and then there's a perfective on top of that. So it's awesome. But if you add a prefix, and we're kind of getting off topic here, but if you add a prefix to that, then it just becomes standard biaspectual, if you want to call it that, where it just has 2 pairs. Okay. So oh, by the way, vremya just means time. So, okay, so to conjugate a verb in the past, remove the ending and then add ol, la, lo, li. Now, in the past, it only matters about gender and or number. So if it's plural, it'll only have a 1 ending here. But if it's singular, then it could be either of these 3, depending on the subject. Now, depending on the subject, because in a lot of instances, this could revert back to the object of something, like to say to like, which we'll cover when we talk about dative. So, nravится. Мне понравились filmy. So, мне is in dative, but then filmy is the subject actually of this sentence, even though it comes after the verb. So you have to know kind of the grammatics, not kind of, you do have to know the grammatics of the sentence so I just added the reflexives here. So nravится would make much more sense here, since this is a reflexive verb. Okay, or if it's something like, but the good thing about cases is that you can be flexible with the word order. So you could say, oh wait, let me do that. What did I even say? Yamu, yeah, and this is not prepositional, even though it looks like it. This is dative. Мне понравились. So filmy, right? Plural makes it so that it has this ending here, the lease ending. But if it's like yeah, and again, this is perfective, saying that, oh, I watched them and then I enjoyed them. Or if you want to say, you still like them, you'll watch them sometimes, maybe it's your favorite movie ever, then you could say nravились. Or if you want to say я выпил chai, so I drank the tea. So I, masculine, male, means that I get this ending here. Same thing if it was on vypil, but then она vypila chai, or они vypili chai, right? Or мы, or вы, actually. So if you want to say вы, doesn't matter if you mean singular, formal, you still conjugate it like the plural. So вы посмотрели игру, maybe. Or let's do спортивный match, which, yes, this is a viable phrase. So you saw the sports match. You can also say futbolny, sportivny, whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is you see how the number changes there. Okay, here we have some different verbs. So in Russian, people will say, oh, Russian has 6 different types of conjugating, I really would say there's only two. Either it's an at verb or it's an eat verb, or it's an eat verb if it's an at verb that kind of is like a hidden eat verb. So like znat here, we say like я знаю, ты знаешь. But if it's держать, which is to hold, so я держу, that's normal. Normal because it follows the pattern. Я держу. Ты держишь, right? Instead of ты держаешь, it's ты держишь. Now here you can look through different. So these are all imperfectives, but вернуться is perfective. So пожить would be perfective. Говорить, сказать would be its perfective. Знать, узнать would be its perfective. And then you would just model the form here. So if it's пожить, it would be поживу, поживешь, поживем, поживете, поживу. But if it looks different, obviously, it would change. Like сказать is different. So сказать, to say, is скажу, скажешь, no, скажешь, скажешь, and then скажет, right? Etc., etc. And then, you see that here. So возвращаться, this is to return. So this is a good cop-out. If you want to use a motion verb, you don't want to say приехать or something. You could just say возвращаться. So because it only has two pairs, and you don't have to deal with whether it's vehicular or if it's on foot, so. And then, so the reflexive rule, while we're on this topic, you see how there's two different endings here. So sia is when it follows a consonant, and then s here is when it follows a vowel. The only time where it's just sia, even after a vowel, is with participles. So like, here we go again. So возвращаю, yeah. So even though, this is a consonant, but let's say, so for participles, it's like который. They're like adjectives, right? So you could decline it like возвращай. I don't want to have to retype that. So возвращай, возвращаво. So even though o vowel, you still add sia to the end there. Okay, moving on, we have numbers. So numbers, you could say cifre, which are like digits, Okay, this looks like gobbledygook, and it is, because numbers are horrible. I hate them. They're so annoying. But once you get like a feel for them, they become easier. Like even in English, we have, so один is one, but первый is first. Now this, первый, одиночный, двойный, blah, blah, blah. These are all adjectives. Like, remember I said втором году, right? So втором, but you could say первом. So like if you wanted to say я в, or no, it would be я на первом месте. So I'm in first place. Okay, so, or if you could say первого, it's just a normal adjective. To say course, like what grade, you use these so often. So like я на третьем, я на пятом, right? Я на шестом. So you see, я на, I don't know, двухсотом, right? Двухсотом курсе. Course isn't like course, it's like a grade. Just say, like a good grade would be оценка. But if you want to say points, like you get, a passing grade would be, so passing grade would be like it's how would you explain this? So ball, not like match, but ball is a point. So you would even say this in like a sports game. So у меня много баллов, right? Два балла. But if so, проходной ball is a passing grade, and then in Russian, the Russian schooling system, пятерка, which I should have included here, пятерка, тройка, двойка. Двойka is like the lowest, but I think there's like единочка maybe or something. Пятерка, четверка, тройка, двойка. Yeah. Пятерка, четверка, тройка. I don't know why I didn't include these, but it's very important things to know. So troika could also mean like a carriage drawn with 3 horses. Yeah, this is like a foursome, threesome, I guess twosome. Yeah. So fivesome in English. That's what we would call it. Anyway, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is 1 through 10. 11, so for the teens, you would add na here. Now, I included this to indicate that dve. So if you're saying dve, 2 girls, it would be dve devushki. And I'll get into why it's devushki and not devushek here in a minute. But if I wanted to signify that this, the natsit part, is feminine. So, or it might be because it flows better. But I wanted to say dve natsit because it looks a bit different than the other ones. So, dve natsit, 3 natsit, 4 natsit, 5 natsit, 6 natsit, etc., etc. Now, when you want to talk about the tens, so 20, 20, so you see dva here. Yeah, I bet that this is just because it flows better, because why would 20 not have, why would it not be 20? Well, yeah, okay, 20 sounds terrible. So maybe this is the exception. Okay, so 20, 30. So before sorok, and we'll talk about sorok, but before sorok, you have this zat here. Zat, right? So 20, 30 are the only two. And then sorok's a weird one because it doesn't follow any number pattern. Like, it's not 40 or whatever. It's sorok. Now, there's a belief this comes from Mongols when they were trading with the old Kievan Rus Muscovy people. They traded furs, and I think 30 furs was like something. It was, or maybe I honestly don't know. Sorok, I know it has something to do with that. Comes from Mongol. Same thing with dengue, actually, as well. So yeah. Anyway, so after sorok, you add disyat here. So pitdisat, and then shestisat, etc. And then 90 is divinosta. So you see 100 here, which is 100. So I don't know why that is actually, but it is. So 99 is 99. So then do is 100, like I said, and then 200 is 200 here, right? So we have dve and then sti, which again I don't think makes a whole lot of sense, because if we were going off genitive rules, so sto goes to sti, no, it would go to sta, like trista did. So 200 is a weird one. And then 400, right? But then after 400, it becomes 500, 600, 800, blah, blah, blah. After hundreds, there are thousands, obviously. So we have tisacha is 1,000. And then tisachi would be like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and then tisach, so 5 and onward. Now, that might have just blown your mind. Hopefully, we this next kind of few minutes on this will give it a bit more sense, I guess. So 2 to 4 is genitive singular. 5 to 20 is genitive plural. Now, 21, the pattern resets. So it goes to, let me just make sure I'm not losing my mind. Hold on. So 1 is nominative, and then 21 would also be nominative. And then it just follows the pattern until 9. So 29, so 25 through 9 is genitive plural. And then 30 is also genitive plural. Yes. But then 31, right, would be nominative. Okay. Just had to doubly make sure. I had a feeling, but I don't want to, I don't want to lie to you guys. Come on. All right. And then this is just like одиночный would be single, double. So тройной, or no, тройный would be triple. And then однажды would be once. Дважды, I didn't put it here, but дважды would be twice. Трижды, thrice, etc., etc. Now, двух is a fun one, because when you're combining numbers, like you see here, двусоты, so when you put a number with another one to make it like an adjective, so like here, for example, в 2002, so it's the only one that's declined out of all of these is this one. I mean, for adjective purposes, yes, this is genitive singular because of the dva here, but then for the adjective, this goes to om. Now, this is not, tisachnom. Now that we're on the topic, actually, I want to mention that if you have, forgetting numbers for a second, if you want to say like northeast, or I'll make a note here. So yeah, you would do severna. So northeast, I said north-vostochny. So this part is the only one that's declined. Same thing with wars, like Rossiyski, I don't know, Rossiyski, Yaponskaya Vaina. Yaponskaya Vaina. Okay. Russo-Japanese War, right? And yes, the ski adjectives you remove the ikratka to make them adverb. Anyway, moving on from that was just a little aside. But if you want to combine digits like we see here, trochsotny, or trochsoty, or dvuchsoty, so instead of 202, it's 200th, right? So it's dvuchsoty. And then четырехсотый, right? Like пятисотый. So here it goes on to шестисотый, and then semisotый and восьмисотый, right? Yeah, восьмисотый. All right. So that's kind of it for numbers. I don't want to get too into the muck, And then after thousands, you have milliard, right? So, well, what's funny about that is there's a rule. So if you're talking about populations, and you want to say a city has, 1,000 people, you could say, if you're talking about population, so население is population, so население is what? Население is, одна тысяча. So you're thinking, it would be одна тысяча людей. you can say that, but most people would just say человек. So you're probably slamming your keyboard on your head on your keyboard right now. But yeah, it makes zero sense. But it is. That's just, you can do that and be correct. And that's also what I would say. So один, right, just like два, две, also is declined. So одна, одни, одно. Одинокий is lonely. So одинокий is it would be lonely. Okay, now here is some Q&A. So, how to ask simple questions in Russian. Okay, so почему is why. So you can see here, well, we haven't done dative yet, but по is a good dative indicator. It means like along, through, very indirect. It's an indirect kind of preposition. So чему, you're like, that looks like чем or something, or like a similar declension. It is. So, but they just combined it to be like, oh, same thing here with зачем. So za is for. This is like for what? This is along what? So, and then here again is the pa, right? And then tomu is, so we know этот, right? Let me just make a new slide here. We know этот. So это. So это, so it literally just removes the from это, and it's declined exactly the same way. So это, right? Это, and then it goes to эти, right? Эти, yeah. All right, you get it. And then you go to we saw with этом, этой, этого, right? Этого, and then etc. Just keeps going. It's just like a normal adjective, right? But if you want to say this is, there are, you just use это blank. Это яблоко. Это, это яблоко. Это девушка. Это парень. But then if you want to use that, it would be тот парень, right? Та девушка, right? Or T, etc. Same, and this also declines with cases. So того, той, те, blah blah blah. So it just follows this and that, Okay, and good phrases with these while we're on the topic. Oh, парень, by the way, is a guy, but if you say мой парень, it's like my boyfriend. But a lot of gender-neutral speech has made it, you just say партнер, right? And just takes out the need for it to be a парень, девушка. Okay, now, if you want to say из-за, so, well, let's talk about поэтому. So поэтому is, again, along, it's just this. So потому, along that, and then this is along this. But поэтому is more like, that's why, which again also kind of makes sense. Потому что, because, поэтому, that's why, I think is a good way to look at it. And then из-за, is from a place. So из Dallas, I'm from Dallas, right? Из зрителей, from the viewers, you could say. Or из out of, isot, maybe, out of hundreds. But then от is from a person. So again, this follows genitive. So от человека is from the person. So друг, male friend, подруга is female friend. So if it would be, so don't get confused if it's подруга. So that doesn't mean that it's подруг. It means that it's подруга, and you need to decline it further. So от моей подруги. Okay. Now из-за is kind of because of. So из-за этих причин. So because of these reasons, I did this, she did that, or I found this out because of this. But you could also to mean from, you can also say s. Now, s usually means with. I don't want to give a percentage. Most of the time, it means with. So s, drugom, with the friend. While we're on this topic, actually, so when you want to say us together, so it's мы, so me with someone, me с другом, мы с Сергеем. So it's like saying Sergey and I, instead of, like there's multiple people plus Sergey is just meaning there's two people. So that also kind of trips people up as well. Okay, and then, but going back to s, right? You would use it as with, but you can also use it as from. So s тех пор means from those times, or from those times. Whatever, something happened. С тех пор они ужинали, because it's a process and you're saying it still happens, but ужинали на кухне as opposed to somewhere else. And again, you might be like, oh, in the kitchen, why is he saying на кухне? There are some nouns that just take na instead of I don't know why, but it's just like that. Like на урок, на заводе. So урок is lesson. Zavoda is factory. Very, very important words. You can also say fabrika as well for factory, but zavoda I think is more common. Also, you can say lekcja if you mean lecture. So na lekcji. But anyway, okay. Or no, it would be ja idu na lekciju, right? There's motion. But if you're saying, oh, I'm in the lecture, then it's na lekcji, right? Same thing with lessons as well. Na urokie, ja idu na urok. Ja idu na zawodu. Ja w zawodzie, right? Or no, na zawodzie, sorry. Na zawodzie. Okay, moving on. But yeah, like most of the time, it's just v, in, na, on, right? Pretty direct translation there. Okay, skolka we covered ad nauseum. Mala means a few. So, я, у меня мало друзей, right? I have few friends. Mala денег. I don't know, mala problem, I guess, hopefully. And then this как is how. So как дела, как погода сегодня, как ты использовал, как изучал политологию, как. Just how, really. Какой is a bit different. It means what kind. Now this declines again like a normal adjective would. So, ты какой парень, right? You're what kind of a guy? Or какая девушка? Какое блюдо? Блюдо is meal. It is, but if you want to say like a cuisine, so like, I don't know, italianskaya kuchnia is Italian cuisine. Now, kuchnia goes to kuchnia. It also means kitchen. That's why you'll hear a lot of Russian people say, oh, do you want to get some Japanese kitchen? When it makes no sense and you mean cuisine. That's also why a lot of people would say, why they would mistake on for in. Like, oh, you talk on Russian. No, you talk in Russian, right? So it's sometimes it can be confusing. Kind of funny. Okay. Где is where, and then куда is where to. Now, куда, you're asking where someone is going to. So, куда ты идешь, right? Куда ты идешь? Я иду на урок, right? Easy. Or say, туда. So, I need to include this. So, here, we see туда. So, туда is there. not like Tom. So Tom is just there. So где ты там? But if you're saying я иду туда, туда, I'm going there from here, отсюда, туда, отсюда, okay? Or if you're saying я иду сюда, оттуда. So I'm coming here from there, okay? And then здесь is just here. You can also say тут. So again, just shorter, I guess, to mean here. And там, just there. Когда. So когда is when. This time is a bit confusing because in Russian they have their own phrases like we have in English. Quarter till, 30 till, and that I don't want to get into that yet. That'll be for a future lesson. But to tell simple time, you ask the question во сколько часов? So at what time it will be. It's literally in which hour or in how many hours it will be. You could also say какой час будет, or I think you can just you can kind of just say во сколько, And then when you say the time, so let's say it's 5 here. I'm not being creative right now. So you say 5 часов. So it will be at 5 o'clock. And if you want to say, 4:30, you could say that, 4:30, 4:15, 4:15. But you can also use military time, like 13 часов would be 1 p.m., which I think is more common that people use instead of AM or PM. But if you want to use AM or PM, you could say 5 вечера, 5 дня. So you put that in the genitive. So yeah, like I said, 5 вечера. Or 10 ночи. Ночью is at night. So if you want to say during the afternoon, during the morning, during the evening, during the night, then you put these into instrumental. But when you're specifying a specific time, then you put it into genitive. So like я проснулся в 8 утра. So I woke up at 8. And then to say soon, later, so скоро, soon, поздно, later. Actually, never mind. But if you want to say like later than, make these comparatives, you can do скорее. So скорее. So again, the double yeah there. Скорее, позже. So поздно is irregular. It's an irregular comparative, and we'll cover this at a later time. But поздно goes to позже. And then here we have до/после. So до means before or until. So до plus genitive. And then if you want to say something is after something else, you say, после, после встречи давай мы будем в центре. Yeah, after the meeting we'll be in downtown. And then here is whose. So чей кофе. So if you say something like чей кофе, this is asking whose кофе. Let's do на столе. Okay, perfect. And then so кофе, you're like, that's neuter. It's complicated. So technically, yes. And they did just amend the language to make it neuter, but traditionally, кофе has always been masculine. So I would just stick with it as masculine. Okay, now here are a ton of adjectives I came up with. They're all in masculine, singular, nominative, so you can look at them and I'll go through what each one means. So холодный, cold, горячий hot, сладкий sweet, горький bitter, кислый sour, бедный poor, богатый rich, больной is sick, вредный is harmful, здоровый is healthy, бывший is former, следующий is next. So Bywszy comes from byt. It's a past participle. And then следующий is a present participle. These are some of the few exceptions where participles are used in everyday speech. And don't worry, I'm not making an excuse, we will go through participles at some point. But I wanted to make that clear so it makes more sense. Быстрый, fast, медленный, slow, великий means like great. So like Veliki Novgorod, a lot of people would say, like the great city of Novgorod, right? And then Bravi is like galant or like heroic, I guess. Gordy is proud. Позорный is shameful. You can also say stydny. But also I would like to put in nagli here. So nagli are these things, but with a negative connotation. It means like brazen or, not really selfish, but more like thinking you're above, I guess, kind of. Or more... like brazen, yeah. Brazen's a better word. So внутренний, inside, comes from внутри. Внешний, outside, comes from вне. Возможный, possible. Высокий, tall. Низкий, short. Главный, like the main, means main. Главная улица, main street, that kind of thing. Важный, important. Бесполезный is useless. Глубокий is deep. Мелкий, shallow. Городской, city. Деревенский is village. Государственный, like a governmental. Грустный, sad. Счастливый, happy. Далекий, far. Близкий, close. Детский, childish. Серьезный, serious. Дикий, wild. Воспитанный is like kind of cultured, I guess, civilized, maybe you could say. Длинный, long. Короткий, short. Краткий, you can also say it's like short. Добрый, good. Zlой, evil, or mean. Дорогой, expensive. Дешевый, cheap. Другой, other. You can also say разный. Такой, the same. Похож is like similar. So я похож на маму. So this actually uses accusative after it. So, which I think is cool. Even with na. So я похож на, whatever. Yeah, I said that. Живой is alive. Смертный is dead. Знакомый is acquainted. Чужой is like alien. Известный, famous. You can also say популярный. Интересный, interesting. Веселый, fun. Смешной, funny. Внимательный is attentive. Любопытный, curious. And then скучный is boring. Новый, new. Современный is like contemporary. I guess you could say модный to mean like fashionable as well. Древний is like ancient or old. And then you can say архаичный to be like archaic. And then лучший is the best. So хороший is good. Худший is worst. Плохой, bad. But if you're saying comparatives, so these are also irregular. So you would say лучше. Лучше would be better. And then худше would be worse. Старший, old. You can also say старый. These are pretty much the same. I don't really know the differences between them. But I know like one's more rude to use when you're talking about people. But whatever. Doesn't really matter. I think старший, I don't know. No, I think старый is the more polite version. Like старый человек is more polite than старший человек, because старший you would say use with more like things. Молодой is young. You can also say младший. Открытый, open. Закрытый, closed. Поздний, late. Ранний, early. Простой, simple, сложный, complicated. Громкий, loud, тихий, quiet. Умный, smart. Глупый is like silly. Тупой is like stupid. You can also say like, I don't know, here's another one. That's a good one. Sumashchi, which is crazy. This is another participle that's used commonly. So it's literally like saying, so remember, is from. So this is literally saying from your sense, you walked off. You like walked off your mind, which I think is kind of funny. Krepki is like strong, but in terms of flavor. Tvordi is hard. I don't know why I put that there. Well, I think tvordi would be better with like miyaki. Remember tvordi znak and miyaki znak? So I'll actually I'm lazy. I'll just put miyaki here. Okay, so ostry is sharp, or it can mean spicy. And then silny is strong. Slabby, weak, miyaki, easy. Panyatny, clear. Chotki also means clear, but more so in terms of, actually, I don't really know the difference between these. Grazny is dirty, Chisty is clean, Ustal, tired. Uski, narrow, Shiroki is wide, Yarki, bright, Chomny, dark, Polny, full, Pustoy, empty, Speli is ripe, Sknivshi is rotten. So this here is another participle. Maybe I should not keep bad mouthing participles. I mean, they are really annoying to learn, but I mean, they are more common than I, off the top of my head, keep thinking than they are. Anyway, so Kajdi, every or each, and then redki is rare. Or I would say, let's say here would be a better comparison as luboy, which means any. So luboy, человек. Yeah, so anyway. Mokry, wet, suhoi, dry. Krasivi, beautiful. Urodlivi, ugly. Tonki is thin. Толстый, fat. Вкусный, tasty. Легкий, light. Тяжелый is heavy. Also, I can note here, с легким паром. Легким паром. So this literally means with light steam. Now, you use this after someone comes out of the bath, the shower, whatever. And so there's a movie, Служебный роман с легким паром. It's a classic that you should watch. But basically, I have no idea where this phrase originated, but I think it became popular because of that movie. But I could be wrong, or maybe people just always used it. But there is a movie called that, and it is good, a classic. You should watch it. It's probably, you could watch it on Mosfilm for free with English subtitles. So definitely recommend. Anyway, местный, local, гражданский would be a like citizen. I mean, it is citizen. So гражданин means citizen as like a noun, but гражданский would be like, I don't know, like a fellow countryman. Yeah. Иностранный is foreign, but I guess чужой here would also work as an antonym. And then маленький is small, and then большой is big. Perfect. Okay. Oh, shoot. I forgot. This would be better, actually. So острый, sharp, right? And then tvordi, hard. I'll put in this. I don't know how I just thought of this. But let's do krugli. So krugli is round. So that's good to know. Okay, место в городе. Okay. Well, first of all, you have to start with what's in the name of the slide. So места, место is place, места, places. And then in городе, so city or town. Now here, city, town, but to say more like village, To say metropolis, you can also say for like a metropolis, big city. But to say village, you could say selo. You can say dеревня, or you can say aul. Now, aul is pretty specific to, I would say, not Russia, but Russian-speaking other places. So for like Russian villages, I would say selo. But for like let's say a Kazakhstan village, then I would say aul. Okay, pochta is mail, post office. Школа, school. Universitet, university. Vuz is an acronym. I don't actually remember what it stands for, but it's basically the same thing as a university, or like higher than a university. Общежитие is a dorm. Общага is the slang for that. Just, yeah. Biblioteka is a library. Посольство, embassy. Magazine, store. Arbat is the place where pedestrians walk in like a city. So, yeah. Anyway, like those, usually like famous streets where people just walk. There's no like through traffic. That's what an Arbat is. Улица, street. Шоссе is a highway. Церковь, church. Мечеть is a mosque. Ресторан, restaurant. Тюрьма, prison. Metro. Перрон is the platform where you wait for the metro, or in the vokzal, or the train station. Park. Zamok is a palace. Dvorец, you can also say. Muzej, museum. Театр, theater. Kinoteatr, movie theater. Kafeina is cafe. Hotel, hotel. Gostinica also is hotel. Yeah. Or like the living room as well, right? Hold on. Gostinica, hotel. Kvartira is apartment. Dom, house. Больница is hospital. Достопримечательность is site in a city. To say monument, I would say pamyatnik. So pamyat is memory. So pamyatnik, it's like a something to, like a memorial, right? Memorial. That's the word. Center, downtown. Say сосед would also is a neighborhood. So сосед, neighborhood. Bar is a bar. Kabak. So kabak is not used like at all, but it's I think it's funny to bring back like old-fashioned words. So people will know what it is. I mean, Oxymoron used it in one of his songs, so I picked it up, and which I recommend doing, by the way, listening to rap to pick up words. It's very useful. Pekarnya is a bakery. Remont is like a repair shop. Spartsal is, you guessed it, the gym. Stadium is a stadium. Diskoteka. Actually, I would say I'm going to add bassein. Bassein is a pool. Stadium. Diskoteka, it's like a rave, I guess. And then klub, just, a club. Okay, to have things. Almost done, I promise. How long have we even been going? I have no idea. Hours? Yeah, definitely hours, but I don't know. I'm scared to look. I have it. I can. I'm scared. I don't want to look. Okay, so there's 3 main ways to say having things in Russian. First way, I guess you could just say мне plus whatever you want to talk about in the nominative. So, like, you could say мне, which I guess isn't really having things. It's more like just saying something that's to you. Yeah, actually, I mean, you could, I guess, say that, but it's more so with, like, adjectives. But for nouns, let's say, like, all right, so next we have to have things. First, we have u plus родительный падеж, And then after are some variations depending on if you have the thing, if you don't have the thing, if you will have the thing, or if you never had the thing. Okay. So now, here we go. So u plus родительный падеж, right? So u plus, let's say, меня, right? У меня, because we're selfish here. У меня есть. So у меня есть машина. Okay, so I have a car. Okay. Now, you could say, if you wanted to say, I will have the car, you would just change есть to будет машина. Okay, because будет follows машина. It's like the нравится stuff. Okay, then if you said, I had a car, then you would say была машина. Now, if you want to say, I did not have a car, it would be не было. Now, не было never changes. Okay, so не было машины. So you put this into genitive here. Okay, and then to say I won't have a car, so just to make sure, it's не будет машины. Okay, so if there's any negation at all, so like, after this you say, oh, нет машины, right? So у меня нет машины, у меня будет машина, у меня была машина, у меня не было машины, у меня не будет машины. Okay? And then next we have иметь. Now иметь, not to be confused with уметь, which is to know how to do something. Уметь. So я умею говорить по-русски. Right? So I know how to speak Russian. Or ты умеешь, right? So blah, blah, blah. It's not that. It's имеешь. So я имею машину, just for simplicity. So you put this into accusative, right? Now, обладать is a bit different. Now, обладать is very abstract, I would say. It's more like traits than anything else. So, я обладаю добрым. So I have good, right? Good, or let's do, actually this is better. So честность. Я обладаю честностью. And then we'll get into, what's it called? Instrumental case. Later. Probably next lesson I'll go through the cases again. So that was a lot. And my brain is exhausted. To say mental breakdown, because that's very useful. Ментальный срыв. Oh, by the way, if you want to say my head hurts, you say у меня болит голова. So it's like, yeah. And then насморк, it's like a runny nose. У меня насморк, у меня аллергия, депрессия, у меня, I don't know. Anything. Now, there was something else I wanted to say, but I can't remember. So let's just focus on ending this. Putting it all together. So, first sentence. У меня есть дорогая машина в ремонте. I have an expensive car in repair. Эти конфеты очень кислые. Кислые, remember, are sour. Очень is very. So, очень хорошо. Как у тебя дела? Очень хорошо, спасибо. Instead of отлично or замечательно, which I don't think we went over, which is like wonderful. You know, say прекрасно. Or if you're feeling very fancy, you can say лучше всех. Now, when you're doing comparatives, you can either use genitive or you can use чем. So я быстрее, чем он. So instead of genitive, you can just use чем он. Or if there was no чем, then it would be его, right? Okay. No, it would be него, sorry. Него. Но на самом деле вкуснее. So in reality, it's a set phrase. They are tasty. Okay, в понедельник я поступаю в университет рядом с посольством. So on Monday, I will enter in the university. So like start studies in the university nearby the embassy. And then here is a fun one. So li means whether. So you put the verb, conjugated verb, before li, and then after li, you put the pronoun. So будешь ли ты делать? So this is will do. So will you do? Sorry. Well, in this case, it could be do, but in this case, it's will you make the big scarecrow? Чучело is scarecrow. На масленицу. So for Maslenica this year. And then so another li example. So you could say like знаешь ли ты мы пойдем? Okay, or you could say like if you're not sure about something, you can also say li, like not just знаешь ли ты or something. And then here, на улице is the set phrase for outside, like outside, in the park or whatever. But it's literally like on the street. And then люди митингуют против войны в Украине. So meeting is a protest. So митингуют is protesting against. So против triggers the genitive case. So война is war, so it gets turned to войны. And then в, prepositional, Ukraine. Now, this is very, very important to do v here, because if you say na, like na ostrovie, on the island, this is saying it's not its own territory, but part of another countries, right? Right, so like, but if you're saying something like na Australia, you can, because it is an island, right? So there is nuance there, but it's kind of like saying na severia. So this is like on the north, right? Na severia, zapadya. Oh, okay, yeah, that's actually a good idea to do directions. Zapadya is in the west. Severia, zapadya, vostokya. Na vostokya in the east. Na юге. Okay. And then, yeah, these are all like na pustinya, in the desert. Na palu, actually, because of the locative. That means in the field. Na sadu also is another one. Na pertinent to Kazakhstan. Na tselinya. It's like on the virgin lands, which means like undiscovered territory or tampered with territory. Okay, now last thing, you have a task, right? Okay, so next lesson, if we do next live lesson, let's say, I want you to know these adjectives and stuff to describe your friend. So it could either be, your male friend or your female friend. So, какие черты, not to be confused with черт, which is devil, but черты are traits. Traits that your friend has. So, yeah, what are they like? Are they, добрый, щедрый? That's a good one. Щедрый. Opposite of щедрый is жадный, by the way. Жадный. Are they? Yeah, so leave a comment, or if you're going to be in the next lesson, please let me know what your friend's like. So, yeah. Anyway, that is it for today's lesson. I will see you next time. Пока-пока. До встречи.